Hello, HS Today readers. As you may know, HS Today is currently in Poland delivering supplies to Ukraine, and we have been vlogging this on the HS Today website under Ukraine. So we've been covering the Ukraine situation, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and also meeting a lot of amazing people doing amazing work here, because the invasion is one piece and then there are all kinds of things that go along with it. So today we're very, very excited to introduce you to Austin, who is working with a group on human trafficking. And so as soon as they saw what was happening in Ukraine, he got on an airplane and came right out. So Austin, it's great to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much.
You want to introduce yourself a little bit and your organization?
So I'm Austin Shamlin. I run operations for Lantern Rescue, which is a faith-based counter-human trafficking organization. We work in about 8 or 9 different countries. I think Poland, Ukraine is number 9.
Yeah. Excellent. And what drew you to Ukraine so quickly?
The refugee crisis coming across the border, it always lends good conditions for predators to start taking people.
Absolutely. And so how long have you been in Ukraine?
I've been in Poland working the border for about 3 weeks with spot checks into Ukraine.
Excellent. And how many folks do you have out here?
So what we initially did when the invasion first started is, always keeping refugees in their country is the better option. Obviously, that's war dependent, but the further they move away from their country, the further the less safe the situation becomes. So we have been getting orphans and women and children out of the country that are in very, very hostile areas or conflict areas, and then feeding a lot of people. So I think on Saturday we fed 434 people. We've got about 18 volunteers there. We just picked up another shelter that we're going to start funding. So all in all, we're probably sitting at around 30 volunteers, and then we had a 3-man expat team here of Americans to kind of evaluate the border crossings and look at policies.
Excellent. And do you see any kind of process in place to be vetting people who are helping, or is it still in a stage where those are evolving?
They're better today than they were a month ago, but it's not where it should be. Volunteers can just show up, and they're not. Some checkpoints there is some police background checks. Others there isn't. There's not really a central Polish government response, so it's kind of hit or miss at these border crossings. We've been focusing most at the largest border crossing where we're seeing over 1 million people come through. So and we've been working with the mayor and his working group there.
Excellent. And so tell us a little bit about what you've seen.
There's definitely trafficking that's happened. We have stories that have come out from several different of the checkpoints. We had one gentleman was arrested at a resource center. When they went through his phone, he was talking about harvesting organs, a text conversation with someone else. We've had coach buses pull up and identify themselves as working for one organization, and the organization had no assets in that location at the time. When he was approached, this guy ran off. So it's definitely happening here. Right now what we're trying to do is use technology to help us find the best use of our resources. So we're tracking migration patterns, which sounds kind of silly when it comes to human trafficking, but that's the important part of seeing where people are going, so we can concentrate on those areas.
Absolutely. And what types of trafficking do you usually see in these? Because you've mentioned organs, and I think that's not the first thing that comes to mind.
No.
It's more maybe the sex trade or that. So what have you been seeing here, and what are the types that you're looking for?
So sex trafficking is definitely the top of the trafficking cases in Eastern Europe. Ukrainian women are actually in the top 3 nationalities for the most exploited and trafficked women in Europe. And I mean, with the border crossing, you have women and children, like 90 to 92% women and children coming across. Their husbands, their fathers, their brothers are all stuck back in Ukraine because of the war. So it's, they're definitely sex trafficking, debt trafficking that's associated with sex trafficking. You'll have women find themselves at a massage parlor or a strip club or a gentleman's club, and the pimp more or less says, like, you're not going anywhere until you pay your debt back to me. And then,
For getting them out of the country.
correct,
Yeah.
yeah. And the transportation cost, and the cost keeps stacking up, and before you know it, you have to work there for 6 months before you even are able to get your passport back. Which, anybody that's taking someone's passport, it's a bad thing. You don't give your passport to anybody. It's definitely trafficking. And so, those are the types that we're seeing, and we're going to be moving into like a more of an investigative phase once all of our data dumps come back. And then we'll be working with law enforcement to identify these locations and see if we can get some of the people that have been trafficked out of trafficking.
Excellent, excellent. And so how long do you intend to be here?
TBD.
As long as it takes, yeah.
Yep. No,
Yeah. Well, good.
we're an organization that doesn't do short-term. This is not a short-term solution. Trafficking is a long-term problem. There's no short answer to it, so we stay until it's done.
Excellent, excellent. And very exciting news. You'll be updating Homeland Security today on your trafficking efforts, and you're all around the globe, correct?
Absolutely. 8
Excellent.
countries.
So we'll be tracking you here in Ukraine, and certainly please do update us whenever you hear of anything, or if there's any way our listeners and readers can help. And we're so glad we met you, and thank you for everything you're doing for the women of Ukraine and pretty much everyone, children, women, feeding them, and certainly tracking if they've been trafficked. So
Absolutely.
we appreciate it. And
Thanks
tell
for
us
having me.
more of where we could find out more about your organization.
Either on Instagram at Lantern Rescue or lanternrescue.org.
Excellent. And we'll provide details for that as well. Thanks so much for what you're doing.
Thank you.